but this is going to be interesting. It says you're live, and it even did the right you're. Exciting. Come. This is about the Idaho 4, the 4 college students who were brutally taken from this earth. And I want to say something before we begin because I think, okay, there's the post mortem wounds. What if that is, you know, because, okay, hang on. The sororities and the fraternities are so quiet about this and they're not really saying much. And in my mind, and I've had this thought since the beginning, what if they each got a turn after everything was said and done? And that way, blood would be on everyone's hands? So my daughter is texting me over and over again. And I don't know. I can't. I'm sorry, honey. I told her I was going live on here. But that makes me wonder, did like Dylan and other people who were jealous and didn't like Kaylee and Maddie, and did they each get a turn, you know? And that's why there's more than one weapon used. Okay, hi everybody. You guys ready to read? You ready? I'm ready. Let's get going. Sorry, I didn't fix myself up for you guys. It keeps saying the same people joined and joined. I don't know if it's just a glitch, but we're going. Chapter 11, Range Rover Homecoming, Murphy the Golden Doodle. I'm trying so hard not to use my East Texas accent when I read. Thank you for liking the live. That's right. I have to remind myself to remind you guys, if you could, like the live. Helps me out. And I don't get paid for this. I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. And it's been fun. It's really getting me out of my shell also. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the past 10 years and it's pretty lonely, but Hi Mary. Thank you, Anne, for liking the live, and Uncle Charlie. Thank you, Uncle Charlie. I wanted to name my son Charlie because our last name is Brown. My husband named him, and after he named him after Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. So they do have pretty cool names. Let's read. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll shut up. Chapter 11, Range Rover Homecoming, Murphy the Golden Doodle, Broken Plea. Chapter 11. Kaylee Jade Concalves was a 21-year-old U of I senior at the time of the murders. Though she paid rent and kept a room at 1122 King Road, she had completed all the coursework necessary to graduate and had moved home to her parents' house in Coeur d'Alene, where she worked remotely for a marketing firm in Texas. Police determined during the early stages of their investigation that she had driven down to Moscow for the weekend in a shiny Range Rover, telling friends she was moving to Austin, where she had already found an apartment. She had recently broken up with her longtime boyfriend, Jack DeCour, but the split seemed amicable. She had agreed to go as Dylan's plus one to a sorority formal. It was a football weekend. Everyone was excited to catch up. Nothing about Kaylee's homecoming would have seemed unusual on a university campus where end of term seniors would be coming and going as they prepared to move on with life. Thanksgiving break was a week away, meaning faculty and students alike were focused on tests and paper. Fall is a particularly busy season in the Greek community, with underclassmen wandering between formals and house parties while the local bars fill up with drinking age seniors. Police were focused on underage drinkers stumbling home in the early morning hours as the rest of the 30,000 residents slept. It was just another day. All that changed, of course, around noon Sunday morning when Bethany Funk called Whitcomb 911 pleading for assistance. From the moment Officer Nunez arrived on scene and stated out loud that Ethan had killed himself, things started to get confusing. Happy Sunday, Donna. Thank you for being here. It was more than obvious that something almost unimaginable had happened. But for a small town police department with little experience in crimes of this kind, the who, when, how, and why must have seemed overwhelming. It had been 6 years since Moscow had experienced even one murder, and now four students lay butchered in a six-bedroom house. From the start, it seemed apparent that robbery was not the motive. There were no signs of rape, and though police knew almost nothing about the killer, the chief did what chiefs do. He held a press conference. He said this was an isolated incident with no immediate threat to the larger community. Nobody bought it. In reality, law enforcement at that point likely had no idea what was going on, period. They didn't even know where to start until forensic analysis suggested a lone assailant and autopsy reports began to narrow down the targets. Wounds inflicted upon Kaylee Goncalves appeared different in character and scope than those suffered by other people in the house. Xana and Ethan died as a result of edged weaponed attacks, but their injuries were mostly defensive in nature. Maddie died quickly from stab and incised wounds of the head and neck, the fewest number among the housemates. Kaylee, on the other hand, suffered wounds that seemed to tell a whole different story. She had been asphyxiated to the point of petecia. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, where your burst blood vessels in her eyes and lips. She had been severely beaten with a blunt object that broke out her teeth, fractured bones in her face, and cracked her skull. The image that I get when I read that is awful. Forensic analysis suggested that this had been a rage motivated attack on Kaylee, what behavioralists call overkill. Kaylee's wounds stood out, even from Maddie's, who died in bed beside her. I know my phone's ringing. Oh my gosh. To try to make sense of why Kaylee was singled out and who wanted her dead, detectives quickly moved outside the crime scene to focus on victimology. ISP investigator Joe Lake and his team wanted to know why she had picked that particular weekend to visit. How many people would have known she was coming? Which of her interactions Sunday night, I'm sorry, which of her interactions Saturday night might have led to an outcome at this extreme? We can follow their thinking on Lake's report, Supplemental 110. He wrote, on December 14th, 2022, I telephonically interviewed Maya Clark. Maya explained she has known Kaylee from Idaho. Although Maya was a couple years ahead of Kaylee in school, they were friends. Maya's sorority little, Kaylin Mai, MAI, was Kaylee's big within the sorority. Kaylee had two sorority littles, Jaden Smith and Emma Tiger. Victimologies start broadly with context before moving into specifics. Lake quickly turned his focus to the reasons for Kaylee's visit, details about life on campus and off campus. He reported, Maya has worked for Extreme Networks for the last couple years, and at the beginning of the 2022 school year, Maya helped Kaylee obtain an internship with Extreme Networks. Extreme Networks is a small company, and during Kaylee's internship, she worked within several elements of the company: sales, marketing, and etc. Her boss was Jeremiah Shea, who is based out of Canada. Kaylee was in the pipeline for a full time position, but the official offer had not been yet presented. It was known to Maya that Kaylee would be moving to Austin, Texas, and working for the company based out of Texas. Oh, sorry. Hi, guys. If you're just joining or reading The Broken Plea, we're on chapter 11. Her boss was Jeremiah Shea, who is based out of Canada. Kaylee was in the pipeline for a full time position, but the official offer had not yet been presented. It has known to Maya that Kaylee would be moving to Austin, Texas, and working for the company based out of Texas. Maya had not had regular or routine contact with Kaylee, but they did periodically talk over the past couple years. Maya is unaware of any issues related to Kaylee or the murders. On December 15th, 2022, Lake spoke with a woman named Erica Anthony, who is not further identified but claimed to have facilitated Goncalves' knowledge of salary negotiations but did not directly negotiate her salary. According to Detective Lake, Erica believed Kaylee was in a full-time paid intern program as Extreme Networks, earning between $20 and $27 per hour. Some within the department wondered if this was enough income to explain a lifestyle that did not seem to match her means. It seemed plausible to police that Kaylee kept her room at the house on King Road because rent had been written into the cost of her education. It did not particularly bother them that friends said she offered to pay for drinks because it was a big weekend at U of I and she used her grandmother's card. What? Okay. It did not particularly bother them that friends said she offered to pay for drinks because it was a big weekend at U of I and she used her grandmother's card. Besides, she was getting ready to move south to Austin for what promised to be a well-paying job. It did not even concern them that Kaylee told several people about plans for a European vacation. What got their attention was when she showed up that weekend in a shiny new car, at least one that was new to her. On Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, ISP Senior Detective Gary Tollison was assigned by ISP Detective Gideon Roberts to investigate Kaylee's purchase of a 2015 Range Rover from the AutoNation Subaru in Spokane Valley, Washington. In ISP Supplemental 75, Tollison wrote, I received the Range Rover title information, which showed the vehicle being owned by a Jasmine Danielle Summer, who lived in Spokane, Washington. The lien holder on the vehicle showed Canopy Credit Union of Spokane, Washington. The previous owner to Summer showed as Mark and Stephanie Stevens of Graham, Washington. From there, Tollison determined that Sumner had signed the release of the vehicle's title on October 29th, 2022, just 2 weeks before the crimes, and Kaylee had not yet changed the plates. In fact, investigation at the Idaho Division of Motor Vehicles showed no record that Kaylee actually even owned it. Though this all might sound a bit obtuse, police were focused on motive during the early stages of the investigation, and Kaylee's displays of wealth seemed conspicuous. Tollison reported on Thursday, December 15th, 2022, I drove to AutoNation Subaru in Spokane Valley, Washington. I spoke to the salesman who sold the Range Rover to Kaylee, Samuel P. Shulkin. Mr. Shulkin told me that Kaylee came to the car dealership twice to look at the Range Rover. The first time she showed up with her two grandmothers, the second time she came with her mother and her grandmother. Mr. Shulkin told me he saw no drama or conflict between Kaylee and her mother or grandmothers during the sale. According to Shulkin, Kaylee bought the Range Rover for $24,423 with a down payment of $6,500 cash. Wow. A charge of $1,000 against her grandmother Cheryl's credit card and monthly payments for the rest. Tollison learned from AutoNation's finance manager, Tyler Munther, that Kaylee's credit application listed monthly income of $3,200 from Extreme Networks, where she worked for the previous 5 months as an operations manager. Tollison determined that Kaylee had good credit and bought the car without a co-signer, but her mother, Christy Goncalves, called the dealership shortly after the murders, saying she wanted to return the vehicle. After a series of discussions, the Range Rover was returned to the dealership before being handed back to the family once Steve decided he wanted to keep it. Tollison did not indicate how much Kaylee was paying each month to finance her purchase, but did obtain a copy of the AutoNation Subaru advertisement offering the vehicle for $24,423. Apparently, she paid the full asking price. Beyond the Range Rover purchase, Kaylee's life grew less clear. By all accounts, she was a popular and well-loved member of the U of I community, but as Lake's team built their victimology, red flags started to appear. Most of them involved her social interactions with men, but there were also issues of online content that might have been problematic. At first, police talked to as many of Kaylee's friends, family members, and sorority sisters as they could find. Kayla Nguyen, I don't know how to say her last name. It's Nguyen. We're going to call her Kayla. Kayla, for example, was interviewed November 16th by Officer John Rosinski, LCPA Supplemental 19, and he wrote, I asked Kaylee if Kaylee hung out or associated with anyone with violent tendencies. Kayla said no and expressed she was confused about the incident because of what she saw on the news. Kayla said Kaylee mainly stuck together with her roommates, Xana, Bethany, Madison, and Dylan. He asked if Ethan was into cocaine, and Kayla said she did not know because she didn't know him that well. When specifically asked if drugs were being sold from the house on King Road, Kayla said they were used at parties but not sold. Kayla told him that she had never seen and did not know about any large quantities of drugs at the house. Interesting that he even asks, right? It's because they were being sold at some point. If you're joining just now, it's the Broken Plea that we're reading. We're on chapter 11. If you have the book, I'm on page 289. I asked Kayla if Kaylee had ever mentioned about having a stalker or having concerns about anyone, and Kayla said no. Rosinski reported before moving on to rumors about a potential predator. Kayla also said Kaylee never mentioned anything to the girls. Another question at the top of investigators' list was early identification of online surveillance video showing Kaylee and Maddie outside of a food truck downtown. And Rosinski wrote, Kayla asked if we saw the Twitch stream. I asked Kayla what she saw on the stream, and she mentioned there were two guys. Period. I asked Kayla if she recognized the two guys, and Kayla said she did not. Why did she even mention it? Oh, she asked the cop. Kayla said her friends Peyton Campbell and Grace were at the grub truck and they saw Kaylee and Madison. Kayla said Peyton mentioned that the two males were being weird. Everything in that grub truck video is weird. I asked Kayla if she or anyone recognized anyone from the grub truck stream, and Kayla said no. I asked Kayla if she was familiar with a fraternity member of Delta Tau Delta, and she said yes. Rosinski asked Kayla why she referred to the males as weird, and she told him she thought one of the males nudged the other male, like, oh, these are your girls, go and get them. Kayla suggested that Peyton Campbell would be worth talking to. Good girl. Would be worth talking to because she was there at the grub truck early Sunday morning with the two victims. Kayla told Brzezinski she did not know if Campbell spoke directly with the two women, but mentioned that Zoe McCormick hung out with Kaylee and Madison all night at the Corner Club. I asked Kayla if any of the victims had any issues with anyone, and Kayla said that Kaylee was unproblematic and peaceful. Kayla said that she can't imagine someone with violent tendencies around her. Kayla said she felt the same way about Madison. Kayla said, if anything, maybe Ethan and Xana. I asked if Ethan and Xana associated with violent people. Kayla said that Xana and Ethan were more outgoing and hung out with different friend groups. In terms of dating and romantic relationships, Kayla said Kaylee dated a guy named Jack Decor for a couple of years, who was a really nice person, adding that they had been high school sweethearts. Kayla said she had spoken to her friend a couple of days before the incident, and Kayla said she met a guy who was already living in Texas, and they were going to be roommates. When asked if Kaylee was still dating Decor while making plans to move in with the new guy, Kayla said no, but she mentioned Kaylee had tried to call Jack around 3 o'clock Sunday morning. Kayla said her friend Josie told her Jack didn't reply. So people were just, oh no, I got a violation restriction on TikTok. Man, my bad. Okay. When asked if Kaylee was still dating Decor while making plans to move in with a new guy, Kayla said no. So they were like gossiping about this. uh, Kayla said because Jack told them. When asked if Kaylee hung out with any other males, Kayla said Kaylee was talking to a guy named Mason Barstow, who was vice president of the Delta Tau Delta fraternity. Rosinski reported, sorry. I asked Kayla if there was anyone else she spent time with, and Kayla said no, unless Kaylee met someone at the bar that night. Kayla did not know if Kaylee met anyone in particular, but heard a male got kicked out for being creepy towards Madison. Kayla said that the last time she spoke with Kaylee was about 1700 hours on 11/12/22. Kayla said Kaylee showed up with all of Kaylee's roommates at her apartment at the Whites sometime between 1,430 hours and 1,500 hours. So 2:30 to 3. Kayla said they left social media posts, some showing Ethan Chapin and all the King Road roommates pictured together, and Kayla said it was taken outside her apartment. I asked Kaylee if she had ever been to Kaylee's house before. I asked if people use the Wi-Fi, and Kayla was unsure. Kayla said they usually leave their doors unlocked, and everyone knows it's a Pi-Fi house. When asked about contact with either of the survivors, Kaylee When asked about contact with either of the survivors, Kayla said she reached out to Bethany, but she was not sure. I asked why Kaylee lived in the house with a different sorority, and Kayla said Kaylee and Madison had been best friends for several years and spoke about living with each other. Reaching further, police found out among the U of I community. On November 18th, ISP detectives Eric Pacina and Ryan Hoxie interviewed Josephine Tourville, the woman Jack asked about this particular subject. Tourville said she had known Kaylee Goncalves since freshman year when they pledged the same sorority, and that Kaylee was her best friend. Josie told him she had seen Kaylee Saturday night around 11 p.m. at the Corner Club with Mogan. Josie said her best friend never mentioned any odd interactions with strangers, though she would occasionally take rides with random people. She said she never saw Kaylee or Maddie use drugs, but wasn't sure about Kernodle. She suggested police speak with Sophia Whitehead, who lived in Kaylee's room the year before, as well as a broad circle of friends, including Ashley Couch, Peyton Campbell, and Molly Great. Later that same day, Hoaxie and Pacina interviewed Parker Schwers. I wish I could pronounce words. A roommate and fraternity brother of Jack DeCour's, who said he believed Kaylee had been planning a move to North Carolina or Texas. North Carolina. He told detectives that Jack and Kaylee had been dating since meeting at Lake City High School in Coeur d'Alene, but they had broken up. Pacina reported that he thought Goncalves initiated the breakup. There wasn't any turmoil in the relationship, and they were still talking and hanging out together. Detectives asked about drug use by the victims, and Schwer said he wasn't aware of any. He told detectives that his housemate, Braden Polo, had heard a dog barking at approximately 4 o'clock Sunday morning and had reported it to the police. Police checked Schwer's for injuries to his hands, arms, and face, and according to the report, they recorded no injuries and left. That same day, ISP detectives James Miller interviewed Aiden McKinney in Meridian, Idaho. McKinty, a former member of Pi Phi sorority, roommate of Sophia Whitehead, and frequent visitor of 1122 King Road, had been at the Corner Club with Kaylee on Saturday night. There was a weird man at the bar, she told Miller. He was pushing her at the bar. Mogan introduced her to the man, and the man was following Mogan, McKenty, and Goncalves while she was there. She spent most of her time at the Corner Club with Mogan and Goncalves. She was supposed to go home with them, but she had a weird feeling, so she got a ride home with the freshman Greek life designated driver. She left at approximately 1:15 a.m. Interesting. Did it say the name of this man? It's just a weird man at the bar. Interesting. Perhaps the most important detail gleaned from McKenty was that she had grown up with Jack Showalter, knew about speculation regarding the Twitch video of him at the food truck, and had received a text from him at 3:04 a.m. asking what she was doing. Oddly enough, Miller asked no further questions about Showalter, the text, or her response. What? He sent her one of those "you up" texts, And we're reading Broken Plea by Christopher Whitcomb, and we're on chapter 11. These guys are just terrible at their job. He did ask about drug use, which she denied, and the code to the front door of the house, which Mogan had given her. Interestingly, McKenty told Miller they would often leave their back door open, allowing McKenty and others to just walk around the back and go in often. She knew Dylan Mortensen from high school, although they were not in the same grade, and Bethany Funk from Greek life. She told Miller that Kaylee had a previous boyfriend named Jack, but that the current boy Goncalves was seeing was Mason Barstow. Within weeks of the murders, police had expanded their victimology beyond King Road to broader areas of Kaylee Goncalves' life. On December 8th, ISP detectives Joe Lake and William Adams interviewed a woman named Ava Wood, who coordinated with the coaches in order to either babysit or get a babysitter for them. Wood told detectives that Kaylee had occasionally worked for Tyler Yelk, a U of I assistant football coach involved in recruiting Wood and in recruiting. Y'all remember that video of the cop that said, was it a coach? Is it a coach or something like that? That sticks out in my mind a lot. I'm sorry, I interrupt myself. She did not know how many times they babysat. In separate interviews on December 9th, the police confirmed that Kaylee had earned $15 an hour providing childcare 5 or 6 times during the spring semester of 2021. On November 18th, ISP Detective Tollison interviewed a friend of Kaylee's named Natalie Goss. She corroborated a good deal of what they already knew, including details about Kaylee's employment with Extreme Networks, identification of Showalter at the grub truck as the grub truck guy in the hoodie, and common use of the sliding glass doors into the kitchen. But there was more. Tollison wrote, Saturday night, she went to the Dirty Goat, a local bar. Goncalves contacted her and wanted her to go to the Corner Club. So she met Goncalves at the Corner Club around 11 p.m. Goncalves, Mogan, and a lot of other people were there. She had a small run-in with a man at the Corner Club. Hey, babe. You gonna go swimming? Want to go swimming? Yeah. Sorry. I don't want to interrupt your... Well, I've been reading a chapter a day. I only have a few pages left. I'm going to finish reading this chapter, and then we're going to end the live. This was and Audrey's coming over at some point. This was the same man who had been referred to, but not named, by numerous students as a person police should look into. Not named. They did, but nothing incriminating was ever found, and he was never a suspect or accused of any wrongdoing. On December 6th, Detective Tollison handed one of Joe Lake's adult victim background questionnaires to Malia James, who said Kaylee was not close with her parents and that she and her boyfriend Jack Decor were still on good terms after their breakup. She told police Kaylee fully supported herself, paying for all expenses while going to college, and that she worked at a Jitters coffee kiosk in Coeur d'Alene, among various other jobs. Kaylee is a badass, right? I think she is. James told Tollison that Kaylee was moving to Austin for a job and had lined up an Alpha Phi sister named Jordan Quesnell as a roommate. It is unclear if Jordan is the person Kayla might have mistaken as male. That same day, U of I student Taylor Zerno told ISP detectives Brady Walker and Gary Tollison about campus life as well as family problems they might want to look into. Walker wrote, Zerno did not know Goncalves' mother's name, but Goncalves spoke to Zerno about the fights she and her mother had. Interesting. Zerno described them as an average mother-daughter fights, such as Goncalves needing to pay for her own phone when Goncalves was in her freshman year. She did not get along with her mother. Zerno had not met Goncalves' sisters. Kaylee seems like the outcast in her family. Zerno said Goncalves and Decor had a very positive relationship. When she would break up with Jack, she never seemed mad about it and would hang out with the sorority sisters more. Zerno described Goncalves as the most down to earth person with a contagious smile. After Kaylee dropped from the sorority, she started hanging out with Pi Phi's more, but their relationship would pick up where it left off when they would see each other. Zarno said Kaylee drank the normal average amount for a college student and was not into drugs or abnormally risky behavior. Zarno said Kaylee was studious, a loyal friend who had not expressed discomfort or fear about anyone. She would never be upset when she and Jack broke up and was always the one to end things because she was bored. At one point, when she and Jack broke up, she had an interest in Ethan Rung, Runge, who is a U of I student and lives in Coeur d'Alene. Zerno did not know anyone who disliked any of the victims. The mention of Ethan Rung rose to police notice. The mention of Ethan rose to police notice that at that point because this the way it's worded gets me. The mention of Ethan Rung rose to police notice at that point because they had taken a significant interest in Kaylee's dating life and its potential impact on her relationship with Decor. They found her account on Tinder, for example, and discovered in subpoenaed records 19 different interactions between that guy. On November 27th, ISP detectives Tim Hopkins and Derek Brown interviewed Aldair Rojas, who told them he was at the corner club with Kaylee, Maddie, and his girlfriend Zoe McCormick. Saturday night, Hopkins wrote in ISP Supplemental 44, everyone was drinking alcohol that night. They were not using recreational drugs. His friend Mason Barstow had been invited to Kaylee's house the night of November 12th, but chose not to go. Interesting. He chose not to go. Thank you. You too. People on YouTube. I do have to go soon. I'm so sorry. Everybody's going to the pool. I don't believe that no one was using recreational drugs. Xana, in all of her videos, she just seems like I did when I was taking bars, if you guys know what that is. Thank you so much for liking the live. I am going to have to end it soon so I don't get left behind. Happened yesterday. I didn't get to make it to the pool. But, okay, he and Kaylee started talking about a month prior to the homicide. Barstow. She would come back with him and stay at the fraternity, and they talked on Saturday at the A5 pregame party where Kaylee apologized to him and wanted to go to the game with him. He already had other plans to go to a sorority formal that evening with Mia Darwood. Kaylee texted him that night, but he ignored it. Kaylee was pretty drunk on Saturday. She probably was texting others to hang out as well. The texts were through Snapchat. Snapchat deletes after 24 hours. I hate Snapchat. Police also interviewed Mia Darwood on December 3rd and recorded in that same supplemental that she corroborated what appeared to be Barstow's story. She did attend the formal with him that Saturday night. On November 18th, detectives David Cortez and Chris Pohanka interviewed Kristen Zoe Wannenberg, who told them she had been a sorority sister of Kaylee's before she dropped out of Alpha Phi because of the cost of dues. Moving quickly to the real interest, Sergeant Cortez asked Zoe if she knew of anyone Goncalves was romantically involved with after Jack. Wannenberg named Ethan Rung and a Mason Barstow. I'm just going to highlight that every time I see it. I want to look into these dudes who are both delts but did not know either of the men and did not have any contact information. She said she did not believe either of the men would have anything to do with the homicide. The report filed by Cortez states Sergeant Cortez asked Wannenberg if Goncalves said anything once her and Jack broke up, if he would want to hurt her. Goncalves described Jack to her as her child. Goncalves described Jack to her as her child and was not a serious guy. Okay. Jack was in Beta Theta Pi fraternity, and they all hung out together since they lived next door. She described Kaylee and Jack as a brother and sister relationship. They shared Murphy the dog. Sergeant Cortez asked her if she thought Jack would do anything to hurt her, and she believed he would never do anything to hurt her. Which brings us back to Decor. He and Kaylee had been dating since high school. They lived less than a block from each other in Moscow, and they shared ownership of an 11-month-old golden doodle named Murphy. Actually, he could see the house through his window, couldn't he? Couldn't he even see? Thank you, Emma, for liking the live. You're amazing. He could see, like, in her room, couldn't he? I don't know. I don't, allegedly, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't live there. Of all the people in Kaylee's life, he was almost certainly the one who knew her best. Due to the complexity of the crimes, police wanted to talk with Jakor about Kaylee. I want to say he did not. Maddie knew her best. Maybe they were lovers or whatever, but seriously, you got a best friend, you got a boyfriend and a husband. Who knows you best? My best friend and I have been best friends since we were children. She knows me better than anyone. Although he was never implicated on any wrongdoing or considered a suspect, on November 18th, 2022, they started a series of interviews that began with victimology and developed into a full-blown consensual search of his residence. This search included, but was not limited to, his bedroom, bathroom, laundry room, and common areas of a 3-story house at 1127 King Road. According to police reports, ISP forensic scientist Carrie Hogan and ISP detective Jeff Talbot entered the apartment at 9:17 a.m. on November 13th. After searching without a warrant based solely on Jack's written consent, they found a drop of possible blood on the wall of the entryway. According to their reports, the sample was collected along with what could have been 5 or 6 small drops of runs of blood on a kitchen wall. Nothing is said in that report on any tie to the King Road house. The search and collection of potential evidence was photographed by forensic scientist Hogan, and documents related to the consent, including the consent form and maps and pictures prepared by Jack, were put on a disc and taken into evidence by investigating officers. Detectives left the apartment at 8:20 p.m., and we will return there shortly. I'm going to have to end here, guys. Everybody's leaving. Are y'all okay with that? I'm so sorry. It's Memorial Day weekend. I don't want to get all into this and then have to abruptly stop. Yeah, there's a lot to go. Hooey, I'm excited. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being here and for watching and for liking the live, and everyone on YouTube. I hope you could hear me fine. I hope it didn't glitch. It looks very glitchy to me. Thank you for liking there as well. Y'all are awesome. And yeah, hopefully, I don't think you can go back and rewatch the lives on YouTube, but I try to spell the names of these people so that if you're writing it down for your own research, which I highly suggest you do, you have the correct spelling. So, anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for liking the live. And I will catch you guys